8,
9.
we beat Chelsea. 9,
That's always a difficult thing. It's
got
8-9 season.
Yeah.
But it was,
When you say we, you're talking about United.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you guys playing this year?
Ouch.
That's why it's working.
Welcome to SuperSport Unplugged. We're talking all things UEFA Champions League. Your host, Michael Morton, here with 3 great guests. We've got Shaun Bartlett, Lwazi and Bongani Khumalo. We're going to be chatting all things Champions League. Guys, let's get this started. First, let's dive into the big question of the day, the new format of the UEFA Champions League.
Yeah, well, there's already been quite a few players that's been complaining. They haven't even played the Champions League, already mentioning the fact of the workload. I saw also FIFA becoming involved, saying it's going to be heavy on the players. Because, you know, before it used to be like certain cups and the league, and now, and Euros and World Cup. Now you've got Nations League, now the new format of the Champions League. And you're talking about 144 games in total. So obviously it's going to take its toll on the player's body. And as far as entertainment is concerned, I think it's going to take a little bit of a knock.
Yeah, from a fan's point of view?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. From the fans, we aren't really complaining too much, are we? Because, I mean, I guess it's going to be more football to watch, more football for us to consume. But yeah, I do feel for the players, rather. Again, we've just had a couple of UEFA Nations League games just a couple of weeks after the European Championships wrapped up, and already a couple of players are having a thing or two to say about just the schedule and how much it is taxing on them. But to look from a fan's point of view, there's very little to complain about.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go through the process, the format quite a few times just to work out exactly what's going to happen. But when you actually do look at it and break it down, there is going to be a lot of interest. And I think the nice thing is that right up until the last game, you're not going to know what's going to happen. It's going to keep a lot of interest in it going forward. More games. I don't know if it's going to be a good thing in terms of, again, the loading. But I think it's amazing for obviously the media. They're going to have millions and us to talk about games, to talk about it, and our fans, obviously. To talk about now the big favourites for this tournament. There's obviously you've got City, but the big one is Madrid. You've got the big move, Mbappe going to Madrid. That front three is looking ridiculous. Can they fit all their good players
on
into
paper,
that team?
at least. On paper.
I was going to say that.
On paper.
I was going to say, hopefully he doesn't do a Harry Kane, you know, where he goes to the club and he wants to win a title and it doesn't happen because, you know, that club loses in the final. Mbappe hasn't won the Champions League yet. So hopefully that is not a bad omen for Real Madrid. But I think when it comes to the whole format as well, I think in some way, in my opinion, it just levels the playing field a little bit. Because before, you would have 2 favorites in a group and 2 not so good, you know, and the groups would have come out and automatically you'd have said, okay, that one and that one's going through. Now, you know, Bayern Munich is playing Real Madrid, Juventus, Inter. Everybody can play each other, obviously due to computer-generated fixtures. And it makes it maybe interesting even for the so-called smaller teams to maybe surprise, like we had last year.
And I think it's a better chance as well because now you got one shot.
Yeah.
It's not just, we got them home and away, so we might get something somewhere. It's like, no, you got one fixture. Regardless of what you have at club level on the weekend or the weekend before or after, you got one shot. So let's say, for instance, for whatever reason, Real Madrid players don't sleep well. Guess what? Maybe the underdog can get a result or whatever it is. It just makes it unpredictable.
And it's not about sleeping well. I've been involved in European games, going to Scotland in winter, and 3 o'clock in the morning, the fire alarm goes off.
Because
it's horrible.
Or it's just them really
it's
just
fans.
And
then it goes over at 4, and then it goes over at 5. And in Europe, you've got to leave the hotel. You can't just like look outside, there's no smoke, I go back into my bed and everything is cool. You've got to go outside, you stand outside for 20 minutes, all clear, okay, go back inside. And it happened for 3 hours in a row.
Wow.
And it's maybe just the way of getting results, but will be interesting.
No, it will be.
Yeah.
It will be.
How important is it going to be that you finish in that top 8, the top teams like City? And when you talk about loading, if you finish in those top 8 positions, you obviously avoid that that knockout round, and you get probably a 2-week bye or something, I'm guessing. How important is it going to be for those big teams to lock in that top 8 position so that they get a couple of weeks break?
So I think it's critical to be in that top 5 as quickly as possible. Not even worry about top 8 because you don't want to leave it like you've mentioned. You don't want to leave it till the last day. Because remember last day, we have 18 live games. And
Don't
you could
remind us,
you 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 could be in 12th and suddenly jump to 7.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be like that on the last match day. But I think you've got to ensure that you're in that top 8 as quickly as possible.
And I guess, I mean, also going back to what you had initially asked about favourites and stuff, and I guess the good thing that we are going to see, again, from a fan's perspective is, I mean, I think game 1, it's Inter Milan up against City, if I'm not mistaken, AC Milan and Liverpool, you know, things like that. So by the time you get to the knockouts, the actual knockouts, these teams would have played against each other so much that going into those knockouts, they would know so much about each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. So again, as Shaun mentioned a bit earlier as well, it's just going to make things really interesting going into those knockouts again, because the field would have been leveled a fair bit by the familiarity between the teams, because it would have met a couple of times going into those knockouts.
But maybe to answer the question finally, I do believe Real Madrid's favourites. I think they've got the most consistent squad. They've got quality players. And the addition of Mbappe, I think it brings a different dimension.
Where's Mbappe going to play?
I would put him wide left.
Yeah.
I think he's better attacking space.
What do you do with
I'm not going to mention another local player that's good in that. But don't ask him to think.
Yeah.
Sometimes just put it in the space, let him run onto it and put the ball back at the net. And I think, yeah.
But if he plays off the left, what do you do with Vinny Jr.?
Yeah. Vinny is quite good on the right as well. But that's always a problem. We spoke about it yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, with Portugal, for instance, with Ronaldo, you know, and just keeping players out like Bernardo Silva and other guys, is like, you cannot play everybody at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, when you play at Man City also, you know, they've got a squad of 20 quality players, and that's the most difficult part of a coach, is you've got to keep everybody happy with the game time and the rotation, I would say, as the starting.
When you look,
I think it's a little, not unfair, but we talk about Mbappe, Vini, but Rodrigo for me is so important in that squad. I think he fills in the blanks, in inverted commas, for me. Like he's a ball carrier, and he shares, and he's got the quality to finish as well. Whereas you look at Vini and Mbappe, it feels like for the most part, that's your one-man show. Give it to him, do your stuff, and then, you know, we'll figure out the rest will be around you. Almost similar in essence, but Rodrigo's the one that people don't really talk about him, but he's so different and so effective in what he does. And I think the beauty about him is he's the only one that can do what he's the only one that can do what he does for Real Madrid. So you can't say, okay, I'll have Vini, I'll have Mbappe, but Rodrigo, sorry, no. So now it's like it's a catch-22. You've got to have all of them together and hope that it works somehow. But at some point, someone will have to be sacrificed.
Okay, so I was going to ask, are you basically saying they must all start? I think that's what he's going to do. He's just going to start with them.
Just all
Yeah, just let them
but
play.
everyone, you've already forgotten about the golden boy Jude.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like
he's gone a bit deeper now, hasn't he? Like the past couple of games, he's a little bit deeper, not as advanced as what he was before, you know. So it'll be interesting times.
I think the start of the La Liga also is because of the Euros that just happened.
Yeah.
You know, so putting him a little bit deeper means Michael would know, because he went from central defensive midfielder.
the slower you get, the deeper you go.
He went from central defensive midfielder to a wing back. Now he's got to go up and down. So when you're in that position in the middle, it's less, I would say, you know, on the body. So he's preserving himself. I think there's going to come a time, obviously, when he needs to push on again and start scoring those goals like he did last season for Madrid.
Yeah. Moving away from Madrid, are there any other big players that you're looking forward to watching in this season's UEFA Champions League?
I'm gonna going back to favourites. I'm not sticking with Madrid this season purely because they probably are gonna win it. But I'm gonna go with Inter Milan, purely based on.
Is City not playing this year's Champions League?
Who's not playing?
City.
Oh, I mean, I guess we'll get to them. We'll get to them. But I'm going with Inter Milan because. What's his name? Argentine striker, the skipper. The season he had Lautaro Martinez.
Yes.
The season he had last time out. I think he's going to be building on that. Plus, I guess there's a term for it. I mean, based on the trouble he had at the World Cup, then there was redemption at Copa America, where he was the team's top scorer, getting the goals that were needed, even though he was starting on the bench. I think he's going to be leading them to nice and deep in this year's competition.
Okay. Anyone you're looking out for?
It's hard to. I mean, even if we're looking at dark horse, like who are you going to select?
Liverpool are going to be annoyingly.
As a dark horse, I would have gone with Atalanta, but I mean, they've started off so bad. I mean, it's hopefully it'll pick up much later. You know, the one did well to win the Europa, but it's been a horrible start. But with that, yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I think Liverpool, Arsenal, but I want Arsenal for the Premier League, man.
You want them to win
You think they're going to bomb the Champions League again so they can push for the league again?
Perhaps, who knows?
And
Maybe
lose
swap
both.
it around.
Yeah.
That's the ideal ending.
Put all your chickens in one basket.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's not very often you're going to hear this, but my dark horse is Barcelona. You know?
Yeah.
I think the last couple of seasons they've putting something together at that club, and all the young players now gelling nicely and getting results. So
Sure.
that's going to be my dark horse for the Champions League.
Yeah, you've been good at unearthing some young talent, coach. Yamal.
But
your
like
thoughts?
you. Yeah.
Yamal, your thoughts?
No, I think it's great. I think it's great for the game. And, you know, the thing with young talent is they're not scared to make mistakes. You know, they're going to keep going. If he gives the ball away, it's like, okay, I'll try again. And he's got that confidence, somewhat almost arrogance, that I'm going to take you on. I don't care who you are. I'm going to take you on. I'll put in a cross. I'll take a shot on goal. And I think that's sometimes what's needed. Like I said before, the footballer's primary job, obviously, is to win games, but you've got to entertain the fans also. Give them something to really be happy and cheer about.
Yeah. Well, we obviously haven't touched on City yet, but we're talking about players to watch. We obviously got Haaland, who's just can't put a foot wrong at the moment. And then you got the potential Ballon d'Or in Rodri as well. So when I'm looking at guys that are really going to light up the Champions League this year, I'm thinking those two for sure.
I think we can all only agree with you. I feel like they are going to bully teams, as in they throughout the round robins and maybe the early rounds of the knockouts, they're really going to bully teams. It's just when it gets to that semi-final stage, when Madrid is in front of you, and again, you're going to have plenty of possession. But sometimes we've seen with City in the last 3-4 seasons that cutting edge we normally associate with them just disappears for some reason, you know. But they are definitely going to be the top scorers of the competition. They're going to bully teams. Are they going to win it? Would we be surprised if they do? I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
I think they've got almost one of the easier run-ins as far as games are concerned. I think if I, on top of my head, with the 3 teams they've got is like Inter, Juventus, and PSG. That's like really good.
Yeah.
Then you've got a Club Brugge, you've got a Feyenoord. These are teams that you would go expect they should beat Bratislava. So again, you know, you're talking about Haaland putting a foot wrong. You know, probably bounce off his head or his shoulder because
Everything touches
you know what he say?
At the moment,
everything he touches at the moment, it's going in the back of the net.
We should have chopped wood in our off season. Maybe we would have been better. Maybe we also would have been scoring goals.
Okay, let's talk dark horses. Who are you thinking that could upset a couple teams this year?
Again, it was Atalanta, but no, struggling.
There's Red Bull teams.
I was about to say Leipzig. What was it, Leipzig?
Leipzig.
Leipzig, sorry.
Yeah.
Leipzig for you,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking at them and I think, you know, there might be something there.
Yeah.
Might be something there, yeah.
But it's still, isn't it? It's also Salzburg.
Yeah.
What's the Pep Linders? Pep?
Yeah, the Liverpool assistant.
Yeah, the assistant
Top
coach, he's
has
gone
just
there.
he's taken a whole bunch of Liverpool guys with him as well.
But they had a great start to
Started well as well.
to the league, and that could be a bit of surprise. But
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm looking more. It's very difficult, but a lot of teams can't handle the physicality of Atletico Madrid.
Yeah. And he knows how to manage a cup tie as well.
Yeah.
Simeone, the king of a cup tie.
Yeah.
Speaking
So
of
that could be another dark
Yeah.
horse as well.
Speaking of Simeone, I mean, how long has he been in a job? I mean, it's like he's just part of the furniture.
Steady.
No
I
one
just
talks
saw
about
a couple
it.
of days ago.
Yeah, like over a decade.
There was a picture of him with his son
Yes.
when his son was young. I think it was 2004. And then just recently, it was him just having a chat with his son who was about to come on for Atletico Madrid. That's
quite incredible.
how much
insane,
that's how long he's been at that job.
Wow.
If I were to pick a dark horse, I was going to say Dortmund, but perhaps the change in coaching with Nuri Sahin coming in might be a bridge too far this season at least. So I think I might stick with Atalanta actually.
No one mentioning Leverkusen. Obviously went through Bundesliga last year undefeated. Xabi
Just
Alonso, they managed to hold on to
Atalanta, yeah.
Yeah, they just the undefeated record, but Xabi Alonso, they managed to hold on to him somehow. I was hoping as a Liverpool fan that we were somehow going to scoop him. But yeah, as dark horses, I'm thinking Leverkusen. I think they could. That 3-5-2 that he plays at the back, very effective in cup competitions.
They had a bit of a blip last week, isn't it? They lost at home 3-2. Maybe that is just to bring them down, bring them down back to earth and
Balance.
kickstart again.
Balance.
But the format though, the format, I mean, it's non-traditional as far as Champions League is concerned. So there are coaches that are going to thrive. There are coaches that are going to be found wanting, at least for the first season. I think Leverkusen might be that team that is found a little, short.
Yeah.
Because again, if you look at their record last season, how many games were they winning late on?
Almost every game. And
Precisely. Precisely.
Yeah.
For them to do that again this season, I think it might be a bit too much to ask.
Yeah. So when you go to the format and you talk about these 8 games, you guys, when you're looking at the teams, if you've looked at the fixtures, do you think anyone who's got, you mentioned PSG, who did you say the easiest, one of the easier?
Man City.
Man City. Have you looked at it to think who has the tougher run in out of the big guys?
Jeez, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Man. Because just purely based on the fact that everyone plays each other just once, it's kind of hard to really predict this one. I think in the previous format, as Shaun said, it's much more predictable. You can look at it and be like, here, home and away, you should back this team. Home and away, you should back that team. But once off, like I'm even too scared to say this is easy or that's easier. Especially, like it's almost like you need to see how this first season sort of runs out, how it plays out, to sort of have a feel of how to predict things going forward. But this is just unpredictable.
Yeah, because when I look at PSG's fixtures, their first 5 is City, Bayern, Atletico, Arsenal, and then PSV. That's PSG's first 5 fixtures. When I look at all of the teams, I think they probably have the toughest.
That is ridiculous.
We're mentioning Leverkusen, also the same.
Yeah.
They've also got similar. You're looking at Inter, Liverpool, AC, Leipzig, and Madrid, Atletico.
That's
That's rough.
So
See, by the time you get to game 6, 7, you could have gone through the first 4 having maybe just picked up 2 points or having lost all 4.
Yeah,
if
possibly.
you're PSG, there's every possibility you lose all 4 of those opening 4 games. So, oh goodness, again, as a fan, yes, please.
Yeah. Then as we draw towards the end, sort of let's take it back a little bit in terms of our Champions League memories. Are there any ones that really come to mind when you think about your favorite Champions League memories from either growing up watching or, I mean, none. I definitely played Champions League.
it's going to be like a few generations. Let's start with the most recent one.
Sure. I think, Zinedine Zidane's goal.
Come on.
That
You were like 2 years old.
but I keep seeing it.
That volley.
The
At
volley.
Hampden Park.
I keep seeing it, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Even in today's football and levels, it's still like incredible. Like it's just incredible. And obviously, growing up, he was like my hero. Growing up, just his style, like almost looked like he was a ballerina the way with the ball and how he manipulated it. His touch was unbelievable. I mean, he looked like he weighed like a size 13 or 14, but just his intelligence. I mean, I used to be a midfielder as a young player, right? So
No.
yeah. Believe it or not.
Why do you find that so hard to believe?
I could have been a young Vieira with these long legs, but it didn't work out.
The way Lwazi says it is like, what happened to your first
It went to my head. More profitable. So yeah, I'd say Zidane. What was the other final? I went to a final when Man United played Barcelona.
at Wembley?
Yes, at Wembley.
Oh man,
I think it's 2008.
Yeah, watching that live, that was quite something.
would have been 9.
That
8
level
we
of
beat
football.
Chelsea. So it was 8
9.
we beat Chelsea, 9 we.
That's always a difficult thing. It's
Got
8-9
battered.
season.
Yeah.
But It was,
When you say we, you're talking about United.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you guys playing this year?
Ouch.
That's why it's working.
well, we could not finish an episode without mentioning.
And Spurs.
Jeez, goodness.
It's rough.
And Spurs. Tottenham Hotspur. So,
Oh, it's rough. It is rough. So those are my memories. Yeah, those are my memories.
United fans, give us. We'll have to talk about history, yeah? Because we
What
want to talk about this season.
He's going to mention that 2001 Solskjaer.
Here we go.
Yeah.
No, look, I think for every
Eddie
United
Sheringham.
fan, my age or generation anyway, it has to start with 99. And not necessarily the final. I mean, the final is memorable for its own reasons, but I think the knockouts where United against the likes of Juventus, a lot of people forget that we were really good in those knockouts.
Yeah.
They remember the final where, for the majority of the game, Bayern were all over us. But leading up to that, we were absolutely solid.
I remember that semi-final for the Keane got yellow carded in that semi-final, and he was an absolute boss. Like most guys, when they get the yellow card, it's like they knew he wasn't playing in the final,
Precisely.
and he just like took it to a whole nother level.
Do you understand what I mean?
No.
That was wonderful. I mean, I would have been, giving my age away, I would have been 10, turning 11.
25 years ago.
You don't need to say that.
No, I'm just saying. So you said 10,
The
11.
salt is not
so
in
no,
it.
I'm just saying.
There's
So
plenty
when
of
you
spice
come
in
in
it
a couple
already.
of years' time
Yeah.
and say you're 35, people will recognize you were 10 in 99. So you can't say you're still 35 5 years later. You know?
Thank you, Shaun. Thank
Okay.
you, Shaun. And then obviously Zizou, 100%. But also, just there's that period where it was very obscure in the Champions League, where it was Monaco were in the final against Porto. Was it against Porto? It was against Porto.
They lost, yeah.
Yes, it was when Porto won it. Yes, like that period was very weird. And then when United again went back to their sort of levels that we all know they belong. So Champions League.
The John Terry slip.
Again, can't forget that John Terry slip. Before that, and not a great memory, but one that stands out nonetheless, when Ricardo Kaká decided that United were his play thingies, and he just tore us apart.
You know,
for AC Milan, would have been 07, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
somewhere there.
Yeah, the same thing.
He's just reminded me of something, talking about Porto, actually. I think that memory stands quite
Benny.
tall. I mean, there's a picture here.
The free kick of Benny.
Oh, no, you guys
Of course, he's gonna show us. He wants to show us a picture.
No, the picture.
On a ski.
No, this one here.
No, not that one.
there.
On a jet ski.
Not that one. There of Shaun. They should have put the picture of our first appearance, my first appearance in the PSL, coming up against
Did they
Shaun.
have color cameras?
Because no, they did. So because obviously growing up, like Shaun, Benny, all these guys, and we used to look up to these guys playing in England. You're like, oh wow, this is
Then he made his
possible. Like, what
debut
is it
against
like?
me.
Yeah.
Then my debut's against him. I'm thinking, this is the Premier League now. Are you ready? Can you make? I was so nervous. I called my old coach the night before. Had a little chat, and he was just like, listen, whether you play well, and I've lived by this. He's like, whether you play well, we have the worst game ever. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is next week or the next game, you work to become better. And that's how I've played my whole career. Now, that comes from actually Paul Matthews. Best advice I've ever had. But in terms of Champions League, bringing it back with Benny, as with part of the legends, I was in matric that year, 2004 it was. I was in matric. And watching him score those goals against Man United, I was watching those games at home.
Yeah.
And one of my mates at school, who was Portuguese, he went to the final. And he was at the final, he's got the South African flag. He comes back, he tells me the stories of the champions. He's like, wow. He's like, he used to talk like, hey, bar. It's like, hey, bar, it's unbelievable. Wow, stadium was massive. Like, the atmosphere is like, yes, you must see these guys live. I'm sitting there going, and then? And then he like, and apparently he sat next to Benny's sister as well, by the way, right? And I was like, this is incredible. So like, to make my debut against, Shaun, to get to the national team and like be around Benny as well, like all those players, I cannot tell you how, like, it gives you hope. Do you know what I mean? That like this thing is possible. It's real. These guys are actually living legends, and they've gone there. They've had their path, and if you do certain things, you might just get there, or even get close.
Yeah.
So that certainly will be my main. That final with Porto, 2004 would be.
I've got a similar story with my five-a-side, but I'm not going to share it with.
I've got a great Benny story. So when Benny came back to South Africa, he was obviously playing at Pirates. Came out at Maritzburg United. He goes up for a header, touches a guy with his elbow. We go straight to the ref, get him sent off.
Yeah.
There he goes, waiting for us in the tunnel. Big. Oh, he wants to fight with all of us in the tunnel.
Yeah.
So but then second round came, corner. I'm marking him at the corner. He scores that goal of the season, that volley.
Oh, yeah.
All my mates never let me forget. Like, Mark, you were marking Benny when he hit that massive, he never let us forget, and he made us pay for that.
Nice.
Coach, your Champions League memories.
Yeah, obviously, I've got probably more than 30, 40 years of memories.
Yeah. That's a big vault.
One is obviously, what stood out for me the most was when Liverpool were 3-0 down in Istanbul.
2005.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to come back and to win that, because I think, including myself, I switched off at halftime. And then I saw, they came back. And I think that for me is one of the best memories. And that name over there for me, being awarded the top scorer in Champions League. I think that overhead kick at Juventus, was almost 2 meters off the ground. He's just been phenomenal, in the Champions League, Ronaldo. What he's done and what he's achieved and how many trophies he's won. And I think for me, those are the two memories I remember of Champions League.
Yeah. What is it about Liverpool and like UEFA Champions League nights and stuff? They just create these. I mean, obviously there was a crazy Barcelona game. There was the Dortmund game.
I don't know if that's part of the script.
Yeah, I'm just going off script.
Oh,
That's all. Yeah, Liverpool fans. Yeah, I don't know. Liverpool have just created so many like amazing memories in the Champions League, and that's why when we talk about dark horses, I think that Liverpool, you can never rule them out just because of the power of Anfield. I think like it sometimes just carries them through games.
I do believe also Arne Slot has inherited or taken over a great squad. Having started the league well, but also the way they play, you can only build on that. And I think what Jurgen Klopp has done there in the last few years has been phenomenal. And I would agree in some way that Liverpool will be a dark horse for this.
Guys, I think that we've come to the end of our first episode, guys. So thank you so much for joining me. It's been epic to catch up.
Thank
you
you
very much. Catch you guys in the next one.